back from the future and he still thinks you're a butthead, this is your look at the NECA Toys Back to the Future the Animated Series, Biff Tannen. Marty Mcfly and Doc Brown experience the adventure of a lifetime in an unlikely time machine as they travel to the past, the present, and the future, setting off a time-shattering chain reaction that disrupts the time-space continuum. Hey, who are you calling a butthead, butthead? Before we get a closer look at Biff Tannen, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure actually stands. I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided a sample of animated Biff Tannen that we could have a look at in this review. If you're interested and dig the original Back to the Future animated series and would like to get these figures for yourself, they are widely now available in retail stores and online as well. Biff Tannen stands 6.5 inches in height. And we could switch that to centimeters, revealing that the figure stands 16.5 or 16.5 centimeters in height. And for some size comparisons, let's bring in some of the other Back to the Future figures that NECA Toys have produced. Well, the only other Back to the Future animated series figures that NECA Toys have produced. Doc Brown on his left, Marty Mcfly on his right. I hope this isn't the end of the animated series. If anything, I hope we still get Jules and Vern. I feel like it would be incomplete without those two. I think we are also getting ourselves an animated Delorean, so that's pretty exciting news as well. But you can definitely see that Biff Tannen is quite a bit bigger than both Doc and Marty. He's the biggest figure we've gotten so far for the animated line. Sad news for Biff, he only comes with one accessory, and that is a severed head, his own head. He comes with two distinct portraits. Picking the figure up so that you guys can see his defaulted neutral head expression. To be honest and fair with you guys, this isn't the head sculpt that comes out of the packaging. You get the more outrageous head sculpt, but I figured we would start more with a somber looking Biff. It looks like he's keeping his emotions in, bottling them up until revealing them with this head sculpt right here. You can see the difference between the two. The eyes, even themselves, have been changed. I feel like the molds are exactly the same. Like if you look at them, the eyebrowed areas, well, maybe not. This area right here looks like it's just slightly higher, but only by just a little bit. Personally, when it comes to displaying the figure, I much more would welcome going this route than just the more neutral, sort of slightly annoyed Biff Tannen. To change out the heads, all you really have to do, yes, he does have quite a long neck. You're very observant. Just pop this off the ball joint and then just go ahead and take the head that came originally. Now keeping in mind, this is the head that originally was with the figure. I just swapped it out. But just one last time, just to show you guys the difference between the two. Yeah, I mean, like this. I like this one so much more. The yellowed teeth, so happens to be the exact same yellow in his eyes. Very nicely panel lined. I think you just get a lot more personality coming from this head sculpt than you do with this head sculpt right here. But I always welcome and embrace when they give us extra accessories. But like I said, that's the only thing that comes included with Biff is two different head sculpts. And going back to the one I liked more, I do really enjoy the fact that they added the panel lining. It does give it that animated feel and vibe to it. Again, he's got quite yellow teeth. It's sort of jarring how yellow those teeth actually are. And if you look really closely inside, Biff actually is sporting a tongue. Sadly, the tongue isn't always painted pink. This one little area right in the front here, unfortunately, has been missed the pink altogether. It's really only on the side. I guess it would be difficult to get in there with a brush and paint that. But it is a bit disappointing the fact that that one area of the tongue, the front area, the part that you're going to see the most, is the one area that unfortunately got omitted, a little bit of that extra dark pink for his tongue. But yes, going back to the fact that he is a very long-necked character, I mean, really, you could almost even have fun with this figure and sort of treat it like an Arnold Schwarzenegger. I kind of get like an Arnold Schwarzenegger vibe when I'm looking at the head portrait here. Obviously, this is Arnie in between shooting when he's let himself go slightly. He does have like a very long shirt. It actually comes across more like a bowling shirt. If you ever are part of a bowling league, I don't speak that from example. I would always love to join a bowling league, but My bowling skills really aren't the best. The colors matching there at the top of the pocket are the same in the collar and sleeve there as well. I do really like the coloring quite a bit. And again, you bring in all that much needed panel lining to not only the pocket, but the area just around the top collar there are all nice and welcomed by my part, or on my end. Now, the thing about his hands, though, we'll talk about his articulation in a second, but his hands almost look like they should be either hugging somebody or holding something. I guess the only option that we have really available is that he could be holding and hugging somebody because he doesn't come with any other accessories. I mean, they're sort of more like, they're not quite gripping hands, but they almost kind of look like he should be kind of looking for a hug from somebody. I don't know personally if I would want to be giving Biff Tannen a hug, but that's just me. Overall, again, just really nice looking figure. Moving a little bit further down, he's got these shorts instead of longer pants with rolled up cuffs. And he also has himself some yellow shoes. All paint, generally for the most part, is quite clean, except for the point I already mentioned earlier, with unfortunately his tongue. Everything else is very nicely, cleanly painted on this guy, and he is really nice and well presented. Okay, so let's have a look at the articulation now on Biff Tannen. His head is on a ball joint. We already saw that. Let me just prove that by popping that off. A very substantially large ball joint. I noticed like the neck sort of reminded me like the Toonie Terror's Ash, but unlike the Ash who had some difficulty keeping his head on the actual ball joint, Biff Tannen is the opposite to that. I mean, once you get that on the ball joint and you hear that satisfying snap, the head doesn't go anywhere. You can move it back and forth, up and down. You could technically slightly, I suppose, rotate it back and forth, but there's a lot more restrictions that way. So basically up and down, and you can move it also back and forth this way as well. As for his arms, they are more, again, that limited articulation that the Back to the Future animated figures have. So because of that, Biff Tannen's only articulation for his arm is this, currently what I'm doing right now. To be fair, he does technically have also articulation where you can swivel at the bicep. So again, if he wants to go for those firm embraces, you can do that as well. For the figure's lower bottom half, he does have a waist swivel. You can bring the legs forward and back. And surprisingly, he does also have foot articulation as well, with a really nice welcomed ball joint, basically with the ankles attaching to the feet. I was really surprised to see that. I thought, if anything, he would just have a straight peg joint. But it seems in actual fact that Biff Tannen has himself a ball joint. I do like the look of that. Now, interesting thing enough about this figure as well is if you look at the bottom of it, he has peg holes, but the peg holes are at the top rather than the bottom. And normally I would expect to see the pegs at the bottom, and you could think, well, maybe the feet are on the wrong peg. But even if you change these out, this is the front of the foot anyways. This isn't the front of the shoe. So for some reason they put the pegs at the front of the figure. Maybe they did that because the figure's a little bit more top heavy. I mean, I really don't have any issues necessarily with Biff Tannen standing. He stands perfectly fine. In fact, of the three figures that we've looked at, he seems the figure that stands the easiest. Again, we'll just bring in Doc Brown. We'll bring in Marty. Just move everybody over there. There we go. Again, I really like this line quite a bit. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I admit that. I grew up watching the Back to the Future cartoon. So again, I embrace the idea that NECA Toys are going to be giving us these. I hope, again, it just doesn't stop with Biff, Marty, and Doc. I hope we still get ourselves Jules and Vern. I think Jules and Vern are, again, those required figures. If they stop the line after Jules and Vern, I think I would be fine with that. But I think we're also getting ourselves an animated Delorean, and that's pretty exciting news as well. Got to think it's going to be scaled to these figures as well. Unlike, unfortunately, the die-cast Delorean that we looked at before, which was slightly smaller than the figures. Eventually, when we do get that animated Delorean, I probably could swap out the one that I'm currently using, that die-cast release, as I like to display it along with these figures because I think it works best with this styling of characters. One of the things the Back to the Future animated series succeeded in doing was taking a character that was already annoying in the movies, Biff Tannen, and somehow managed to make him even more annoying. I didn't care for Biff Tannen in the cartoon, but I certainly understand why they had to make him the way that he was. He was supposed to be the ultimate foil to Marty and Doc, and I can understand why they made the character as annoying as he was. Still thrilled the fact that we were even looking at an animated Biff Tannen. Of course, NECA Toys, when it came to the Back to the Future property, Obviously, their focus is more the movies, because I think most collectors will probably be getting more on board getting the movie figures, and probably less of us. There's a niche of a niche. I represent that smaller niche, I'm sure, that are interested also in the animated Back to the Future cartoon figures. So again, thank you for catering a collection towards me as well. That being said, I don't think there's going to be as much of a long life for the animated line as much as there is going to be for the movie line. I think NECA Toys, providing they still have the license, are going to probably continue to push more and more figures out for the movie figures, and probably not going to be doing as much when it comes to the animated stuff. If we only get ourselves a Jules and Verne, an animated Delorean, I think that's enough. We don't really need to have anything more than that. We don't need to have the different time versions of Biff Tannen. It would be sweet if we could, but if we only get ourselves just regular OG Biff that we're looking at in this review, I'm accepting that. That's enough for me. I'd love to get it, but I'm accepting if that's where we're going to stop with this line. Have you been collecting both Back to the Future movie figures and animated figures? Are you part of that niche of a niche that I am, that enjoys the animated figures just as much as he likes the movie figures? Or are you somebody that just collects the Back to the Future movie figures? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to send a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Biff Tannen that we had a look at in this review. If you guys are enjoying the content you're seeing on this channel and would like to stay on board, this happens regularly after all, Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 2 videos a day. That's what we do on this channel. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, to hit that subscribe button down below. If you haven't done so already, turn that bell notification on. And always, always, always keep those peepers peeled to this channel, because there's definitely going to be a lot more reviews coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.